How I manage my budget for traveling. If you are like me, like to explore the world, but don't want to bankrupt your bank account, I want to share with you the tips I have for the traveling budget that help me to be financially prepared and stress free while visiting new cities, countries, or even continents. First, let's start from the essentials. Book the trip with the banking card that has travel insurance. That is must for me now. And I have to say, this tip comes from the negative personal experience that I had in my life. When I was traveling to Milan in Italy, my backpack was stolen, and since I used a normal debit card to book my trip, I didn't have any loss compensation at all. So, for my big and so far the most expensive trip to Japan, I signed up specifically for the metal membership at N26 to get my bag protected. I'm also going to open American Express card and see what benefits for traveling I can get there along with the travel and luggage insurance. You of course can choose whatever bank and service you prefer. The main point is you always think about it in advance. Another point that gets the big priority for my traveling is the investing into good flying options. To be fair, I flew business class all the way to and back from Japan, but traveling short distance in Europe, business class is not necessary at all. But what is necessary is the good timing. I tend to choose the options that doesn't cost me having too much time difference between arrival to the new location and check-in in the hotel. Same on my way back home, I tend to choose the departure time that won't make me spend the whole day long walking the city and getting exhausted even before I start my way back home. So I always make sure I'm arriving home at the meaningful hours without problems, and in case something goes wrong with the train, for example, especially in Germany, I would still have other options available to get home. And this again comes from the personal experience because there was the few times of me being stuck in a new city because I could not manage the transfer that was too short because the train was delayed and my last train to the final destination was the last option until the morning next day. So that's why for me, if I see more convenience traveling tickets that costs more, I would always prioritize my comfort in this case. Additional to that, I definitely think that the lounge access at the airport is such a game changer and at the same time a good financial decision. You get your relaxed atmosphere, food and drinks, enough space, sockets for charging the devices and working there or reading in silence. And you don't have to purchase extra expensive business class tickets for that, but use your online banking to check if they offer it as a benefit. I recently explored that my N26 account gives me opportunity to book lounge access in myriad of different airports across the globe just for 30 euro. And believe me, next time I fly anywhere, I'll do that for sure. What is always requiring additional budget for me for my traveling is the hotel. I personally rarely stay with Airbnb. I know it's cheaper options, but I prefer to go for hotels because I have set of expectations that majority of the time are being met. And I always pay attention on the location that has to have the good transportation location. I know that places located a bit more on a distance tend to cost less, but if I count the time I spent in the new city on commuting time, I would say paying extra so worth it because otherwise I would pay with my time and energy, and that's the currency I'm not willing to pay with. And also I have to say I tend to choose hotels with breakfast options included. It cuts my daily budget expenses for food, gives me a good boost of energy to go and explore the place right after my breakfast. It creates a structure because usually you wake up early to get for the breakfast and it reduces the mental work. I know that traveling is already full of new emotions and impressions, so I want to spend my energy on these things rather than starting my day from the reviews proofread. And one more thing about hotels, definitely if there is any spa options available in the hotels where I want to stay in, I would always prioritize this choice even if it's more costly. because otherwise it would cost more money. And very unlikely I would be willing to navigate the spa recommendations in the new city, checking in the reviews. And for example, in Japan, where every day I had a long, long walk, having the in house spa, so called onsen, was a blessing. I got quickly recovered at the evening and ready to explore the country on endless walking distances the next day. Now let's talk how to prepare your bank account for your travel. I personally like to pre-save money in smaller portions in advance. So before my flight to Japan, for example, I have done a small research and found out the information that other travelers recommended having around 60 euro budget per day. So for my 14-day stay in the country, I targeted around 850 euro as a daily budget plus 1100 euro for hotels. So total budget was around 2000 euro. So that's why a few months before I travel, I start transferring around 500 euro to my bank account. And in N26, you can do this as a subsection, allocating money for a specific goal, for example, an expensive trip like I did. Yes, there were a few months that was a stretch for my savings, but overall monthly budget was in balance even when I was in Japan. Hence, I pre-saved money from the several months ahead. I have to admit the trip to Japan was above my regular traveling budget, but when I travel in Europe, I try to also split the expenses on several months. So neither of my traveling expenses hurt my monthly budget too much. So one month I book hospitality, another month I book the ticket. So while traveling, then I need to have only small budget for my daily life in the new place. Hence the rest is already paid. And also having a budget allocated for a trip helps to have a good overview over the travel budget without urge to track every single purchase. I need simply to check the total balance to understand if I'm not overspending and staying in my budget and easily summarize the final budget at the end of the trip. But what I also find very important for the traveling budget is to save around maybe 10% of the expected budget for this trip for emergency, just in case. I always make sure I have easy access to extra money in case something goes wrong in new country and I immediately need to fix that. And of course, I always have cash with me. That actually saved me in Japan because it's one more additional aspect of preparing your finances for traveling. Make sure you have card that allows you to withdraw money in that country. Before I went to Japan, I precisely signed up for metal membership by N26 banking account to have an unlimited access to local currency withdrawal. But I didn't activated my physical card in Germany, so in Japan it was declining all my purchase one after another. So luckily, I had my virtual card on my phone activated for purchases abroad. I had cash to exchange and friends who helped me to make this mistake not as critical as it could be if I would be there alone. And talking about traveling together with someone, there is another useful thing you can do is to create a splitwise account to manage the expenses while you are traveling together. Every time someone pays for hotel, taxi, food, tickets, or anything else, you simply input the data and get the precise calculation who owns whom, how much money. And that's exactly what we did with my friend in Japan, and it was such a no-brainer to keep our joint expenses transparent. And one more rule or approach I have for my traveling is to travel as light as possible. I always make sure I have a good combination of matching clothes pieces so I have wanted variation of outfits without carrying much. And in case the circumstances change, I remind myself there are always shops available. And speaking from my experience, that was the case when the weather forecast was not matching my clothes selection. But you know what? I always found the way to buy new essential pieces to fix the issue and keep them as a good memory after trip. Because I don't like to buy souvenirs, but having some new pieces in my wardrobe was a story sounds great to me. That's why having some space in my luggage and being flexible on fixing the issues caused by changes of the weather helps me to reduce the stress and expenses before going to the new destination. And one more money saving hack for travelers is to arrange the eSIM card before you arrive to the new country. Because in the airports, the prices are always higher, but internet access you need straight away. So, better to be prepared for that. And of course, it goes without saying that you can also save even more money while traveling if you book the tickets for planned activity in advance. But that's not exactly what I personally prefer to do. I prefer to keep the exploring flow more spontaneous and book only major milestone to give myself more flexibility to decide in the moment where to go, what to do, what to eat, and etc. And that's basically how I stay financially responsible while traveling and don't break my budget while exploring the world. What traveling hacks make you an easygoing traveler, and what is the country you plan to explore next? Share with me in the comment section, and let's see each other in my next episodes. Take care, see you, bye bye!